Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and this is Dear Profiler Pat, where I answer your questions. If you ask for advice, I give advice, and sometimes I do say only the truth, at least the truth as I see it. And I do try to help, and I try to go a little more in depth than a lot of other advice columns because when somebody asks a question, we may not have that exact problem, but we have something so similar, or that if we expand it a little bit, we'll cover everybody's issues. And I like to do that. So if you'd like me to answer one of your questions, do send an email to profilerpatbrown@gmail.com and put in the subject line, Dear Profiler Pat, so that I know that's what it is. And do subscribe to the channel, support this channel so I can give more advice in the future. And also check the playlists because the playlists are different categories, and one category might interest you more than the others. So do that. All right. So today, what do we have here? We have a question which I just loved. It's funny for me when I get these questions in. I'm like, this is something I've considered or had an issue with, or I know somebody's had an issue with. It's amazing. We're all humans and we all have very similar things that we're dealing with in life in different ways. But anyway, this is the question. So the Dear Profile thing is basically, how do I stop comparing my success in life to somebody else's success in life? And so here's the question that came in from this particular person who said, Dear Pat, how do I stop playing the comparison game? A good friend of mine has the marriage and lifestyle that I envisioned for myself at 40. I don't have a bad life, but hers is, quote, picture perfect, while my marriage has more struggles than I'd like it to have. Any advice on how to be more grateful? I am going to say the problem isn't being grateful. The problem is understanding that your life is special to you and her life is special to her. And it's most important that we understand that somebody else's adventure, somebody else's choices, somebody else's goods and bads are not ours. If they're not, those aren't even things we might want to even pick to do. Just because theirs looks good, we might not even want to live the lifestyle. If we could, would we? Would we really like it? So a lot of times we people have things that we don't. Fancier lifestyles, bigger houses, better clothes, looks like a better marriage, whatever. And we become what's just called jealous because we think, why do they have that and I don't have that? And if I had that, I'd be so much happier. Would we? Because first of all, we don't even know if that person is even happy. What happens behind the scenes and what they put on Facebook and what they tell you are two entirely different things. So, but I'm going to tell you three things that there are three sayings that I've come across, which I just thought were kind of humorous. One is, a friend told me this once when I was probably 19 years old. She said, when I see a woman who's wearing a fur coat, I don't get jealous. I become her best friend and I find out how the hell she got it. And I remember bursting out laughing, thinking, that's brilliant. You're not jealous of other people who have things. What you understand is that if they're able to achieve certain things, you can learn from them. They're like mentors to you. I mean, there's been many people in profiling and in television and YouTube that I get good ideas from. Now, I'm never going to be Mr. Beast on YouTube. His success is ridiculous. But I can still learn from him and then make my success my success. Same thing in profiling. There are profilers that came before me. I personally didn't like a lot of the profiling methodologies, but their work, all of the work wasn't something I disagreed with. I read their books, I learned from them, and then I made my own life with profiling, not their lives. And would I have wanted their lives? Always ask that question. They work, for example, the FBI profilers work within law enforcement. My daughter works within law enforcement. She's 20 years, hitting retirement age, but she'll probably keep going. 20 years with the police force. I've done ride-alongs with her. She was like 10 years on, I don't know how long she was on the street, but a long time there. And then she became a detective, which she's been for the last decade. And she's been domestic abuse, and she's been sex crimes, and she's been child abuse, and she's been homicide. She's done all that. And some people say, Pat Brown, are you jealous of your daughter? Don't you wish you had gone into law enforcement? My answer is, I would have sucked at law enforcement. because I do not do well under that kind of pressure. And I'm not as brave as my daughter. I'm not good at that stuff. And I don't work well within a system. I would never have joined the military. So for her, it was grand. For me, it wouldn't have worked. So there's no reason to be jealous of something I wouldn't actually be good at. So therefore, would I have done well in the FBI? Probably not. I'm a renegade. It's not my thing. But for other people, that might be their adventure. So you see a woman with a fur coat, don't get jealous, find out how the hell she got it. In other words, learn from that person, but don't be jealous because it serves no point. You know, she might have gotten that fur coat under circumstances which maybe you wouldn't have wanted to got that fur coat. So you don't know what's behind the scenes. All right. Second, this is my own saying. You don't need to have a swimming pool behind your house. You just need a friend with a swimming pool. You know, sometimes we're jealous of people that, quite frankly, they can do us a lot of good. When I was raising my children, I lived in this big old house. It was a 250-year-old house. Had a lot. It was like a farmhouse in the middle of a suburb, and I loved it because I could raise my kids there, let them run around. I could have play groups there and all kinds of things there, and I wasn't all that concerned. I was a homeschooling mom. I stayed at home. I shopped at thrift stores. Nobody could ruin our couch. It was already pre-ruined, you know. So I had a lot of kids come over to the house, and we had all kinds of pets. And you know, my 200-pound, maybe it was 300. I can't remember how big that pig was. 20 years I had that pig, big potbelly pig that was way bigger than I thought it was going to be. And you know, it was snored around the house. And I mean, I had the life I wanted. Then I had a couple friends who had swimming pools. And they had very nice houses. Their houses had new furniture. And their swimming pools were lovely. And luckily, I was friends with those people. So I didn't have to pay for a swimming pool, which I couldn't afford. I didn't have to upkeep the swimming pool. And so I went to their house and enjoyed their swimming pool. And my children enjoyed their swimming pools. It was grand. And do you know what those people did? They're like, when they wanted their kids to run around and not mess up their house, they sent their kids to my house because they're like, you can't mess up her house. So my life, they didn't have to be jealous of my life. They just had to appreciate the fact that I lived in a different way that benefited them. And for me, I didn't have to be jealous of their life because they lived in a way that benefited me. How about that? You know, it's a funny thing. It really is. It's a funny thing. So in my life, I've always appreciated people who had all the things I didn't because, for example, another one. So I moved to Minnesota during when I was separated, lived with my sister. And at that point, I still had my house back in Maryland, but that was all under contention. You know, it was a divorce situation. So I was staying with my sister in Minnesota, and I was sleeping in the downstairs bedroom, which once the teens used to sleep in. I'm like, oh, this sucks. You know, no, she didn't suck. She and her husband were wonderful. I stayed there 4 years. It was great 4 years. They were wonderful people, and I loved living there. But it was kind of funny because I came from my own home to a basement, and I'm like lying in a bunk bed going, what happened? But anyway, I made friends in Minnesota, and they were from the Indian American community. I got involved with Bollywood dance, and so I made these friends and all these. And I danced with this Indian Bollywood dance group, and you know, it was great fun. I got to perform all over the place, and they invited me to their parties at their homes, and I got to wear beautiful saris and Indian jewelry, and it was all grand. My friends lived in big homes because they were doctors, engineers, whatever. They lived in big homes with you walk in and the atrium, type thing. It's like beautiful homes. And I could look at them and say, they're still married and they live in big homes and they make a lot of money per year. Why not me? Why not me? Why is my marriage falling apart? Why am I sleeping in a bunk bed in my sister's basement? Thank you, sister. Anyway, why is that happening to me? Why am I having this life while they're having that life? And the whole thing is, in reality, I've never wanted one of those big fancy homes. I have never wanted it. I grew up in a relatively wealthy community. And that was never my thing. I always loved the old farmhouse thing. I never was into the big fancy house. I don't know how to decorate a big fancy house. I'm not it's just not me. And then it's like I'd have to go out and buy new furniture and like decorate and crap, and then I'd have to hold like parties and things. I'd have to entertain. I'm a crappy entertainer. Now I live in a 900 square foot house. My YouTube studio is my dining room table because nobody's coming to eat here. I mean, I suck at entertaining. I may have a friend who comes over and I'll cook for that friend and we'll sit down and eat. That's it. I don't entertain well ever in my life. I've had a few parties when my kids were growing up. I did a 20s like party for my kids. It was very cool. My daughter was turning 16. It was and I invited all the homeschooling friends over. I was good at that. I had every year I did the Halloween house in the neighborhood, and hundreds of people came to that. And I did everything out of trash bags, and I did a different fairy tale every year. That was great. But having a dinner party where I invite 20 people over and I cook for them and set up a beautiful table and all that crap, that's not me. But it was my friends in Minnesota, my Indian friends. And oh my God, they would invite me to a party and I'd get to put on a pretty sari and I'd show up at their house and then I'd enjoy the food and all the camaraderie. I'm so glad they had the big house and the beautiful dining room and all the entertainment. You know what I mean? I love that. I love the fact that they are living their life and shared it with me. And then I live my life and share my life with them. That is, just because somebody's living a life that looks different, looks better than yours, isn't that? It's just their journey and you have your journey. And maybe if you'd made some of the same choices they made, you might be there, but you may not have wanted to make those choices. A lot of people don't understand that. They're looking at that going, oh, they had this gorgeous house. Well, yeah, because I went to medical school for like a decade. Did you want to do that? I didn't want to do that. So I'll let go of the big house and I'll go with, no, I don't want to do that. And there's people who they've worked 78 hours a week as a lawyer. They know, especially when they're coming new as a lawyer and being an attorney working for a firm. Oh my God, they work their butts off. They never see their kids. I was fortunate. I got to stay home with my children and homeschool them. And if I compared myself to other people will say, well, at that point in time, I had my bachelor's degree yet. I did get my bachelor's degree. So I had my bachelor's degree, but not my master's. I had a bachelor's degree, and I was staying home with my kids. And again, I rented 3 rooms in my house to students from the University of Maryland so I could survive staying home. And then I bought everything from the thrift store. And somebody else made a different choice, a different path. And they went to get their master's degree, their PhDs, or whatever they did. And they're living a swankier life. Their child is in private school. And they have a better house. I love my house. I mean, I would never give up my 250-year-old farmhouse. I did because I got divorced and I got older. And I'm like, what am I doing with 5 bedrooms? And but it was an old farmhouse. And I loved it to death. I lived there 35 years and I loved it because it was me. Their house is not me. Their profession is not me. And they're going to give up something to get what they want. And I'm going to give up something to get what I want. They could be looking over at me going, dang it, I wish I had her life. I could have spent more time with my children. I could have not had to get up, crack of dawn every day. I could have slept in. I like the homeschooling. The little yellow school bus came through the neighborhood, and I'm like, that's like, bye, school bus. I didn't have my kids on it. I didn't have to drive my kids to school either. My kids were just there. And so another person would go, oh my God, I would never want to homeschool. That would drive me insane. And therefore they made a different choice. So, but their choice isn't perfect. They have to deal with either the difficulties of public school or the difficulties of private school and the cost of private school. I have to deal with the difficulties of homeschooling. If I have a small house, I have to deal with the difficulties of being in a smaller house. They have to deal with the difficulty of being in a massive house. Everybody's got something they're dealing with. Now let's talk about your marriage. Isn't as perfect as their marriage? How do you know? Are you living in their house, seeing what's going on? Now, I hope, because we should all hope for everybody, that they have a great marriage, that they have a good family life. God knows that is the most important thing on this planet. But I will say, when I got divorced after 25 years, everyone was shocked, except 2 people, my best friend and my sister, who's also my best friend. The only 2 people who really had a clue. They were like, what? They knew, but the rest of people were like, what? Though they thought my husband and I were the perfect couple. And they were not correct. Now, mind you, I'm not upset that I married my ex. He was a good father, and I'm thankful that we had the home life that we did. The family, I got to stay home and raise my kids. He was a good provider and all this kind of stuff. He wasn't a bad person, but our marriage just didn't work terribly well. I'm not going to get into that. But somebody from the outside is going to say they were perfect, and that's not true. And so you're looking at other people. I'm sure they're dealing with their difficulties too. And if they're not, if they happen to marry their soulmate and their best friend, and they're still that way 20 years later, God bless them. I mean, we all do wish that. And if we don't get that, guess what? We don't always get what we want. But, they could have the soulmate of their life and end up with cancer. Not wishing that on, but I'm just saying our lives are not perfect. We can have physical ailments. We can have economic situations. We can have, you just never know. Life is an adventure, and you get thrown into life because it's kind of like, it's kind of a crapshoot. It's like, oh, look, you get rich parents. Oh, look, your parents are poor. It's kind of sucks, and you're really lucky if you didn't get the roll of the dice. Oh my gosh, your parents are sleeping on the footpath in India, and that's where you're going to be sleeping. And where you go to the bathroom is in the railroad tracks. And your parents may love you, and they're going to be struggling because they're extraordinarily poor. That may happen to you. Or you could get a roll of the dice and you could be a very wealthy Indian. You know what I mean? There's, again, both of those things. A lot of people get a bad roll of the dice, and then they have to accept that in that life that they live, they may feel that jealousy toward the whole bunch of people in the world who live in what look like better circumstances, and probably are better circumstances. But maybe, just maybe, there's still something that they have. Maybe it's camaraderie between the other people. Maybe it's the fact that everybody helps everybody. Maybe it's the fact that the food they prepare is delicious. Maybe it's the fact that they love each other. Maybe it's whatever it is. So we shouldn't look down upon people who have less than us, because maybe they might have more than us and we just don't know it. And we shouldn't be jealous of people more than us because they may have less than us and we just don't know it. But regardless, we should wish the best for everybody, because they're on their adventure of life, and they're picking things out. Hopefully, some things are going to happen to them and they have no choice over. Other things are going to be a path they did choose for, maybe because it fit their life. It fit their style. It fit their needs. So when I see people accomplish things that I haven't accomplished, it may be because I don't want to do that. And if they want to do that, and it happens that they end up with more money or whatever, it's because maybe they chose that and worked hard at that. And they have every right to do that. And I'm like, hey, you chose your path, I chose mine. And again, there's all these different possibilities. One, we don't have to be jealous. Just find out how the heck they got it, learn from them. Two, if they have it and we don't, but we're friends, we end up benefiting, and they end up benefiting from what we can offer them as well. And three, it's just, we're different people on different adventures, and live your adventure. Don't live their adventure, and don't think, why don't I have their adventure? Because it's not your adventure. It's not your life. Let them have their life. Have yours. Look at your own life and say, what do I like about it? What don't I like? Can I fix things? Can I do better things? And explore that. Don't explore somebody else's life, which you really half the time don't even know what the heck is actually going on in their life. So just explore your own life, because you have control over that. So anyway, those are my thoughts on it. Great question. How do I stop comparing my success with other people's success in life? And one last thing. Life is like this. Fortunes change. Circumstances change. Finances change. Everybody is always on the edge of something, and we don't know what that is. So just be thankful for the day you have, and be ready to face the day tomorrow. And so thank you very much for being here. Again, if you're new to the channel, please do like and subscribe. Check the playlist, and I'll see you next time. Bye.